Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always. Thanks for joining us for episode number 102. So today we've got one of our favorite distilleries from Scotland in the southernmost point of Islay, and that's Ardbeg. And we've got the Ardbeg NO for you today. So it was released relatively recently as one of the special committee releases. Bottled at 46.6% ABV. The NO stands for sort of the rounded mountain, if you will, surrounding it. That gives Islay Ardbeg Distillery a little bit of protection from the unsavory weather that it can experience sometimes on the rugged peninsula that it is. So let's see what we got here. We've got a whiskey that's been aged for not really sure how long. So this is another non-age statement. Seems to be run-of-the-mill these days, but it does have a few things going for it. Like I said already, the proof, the 46.6 ABV, is a nice hit. And then with most Ardbeg expressions, you'll always see a little non-chill filtered tag right there, which is always nice. When you take a look at the whiskey, you'll notice that there is no caramel coloring in it. It's just pretty obvious. Now, I don't have any water, but if I were to drop some water in there, you might notice a little bit of cloudiness in there, which is perfectly normal. Just get all the essential aspects of the whiskey that are imparted by the maturation and the distillation process. So, what we have in terms of maturation is 3 different casks. So we have some PX sherry casks, we have some new oak casks, and we have some first fill bourbon casks. So really interesting mix. I've seen that combination of the sherry, the first fill oak, and the completely new charred oak cask has been around a little bit with different expressions. Some have hit the mark, some have missed the mark a little bit on there, but anyway, so as I said, this is the trend of the non-age statement whiskeys that are being put out there. Like I said, it was a committee release. I'm not sure if this exact bottle is a committee release. It said it in the packaging, but usually you would see on the bottle a little stamp of a committee release, as you would with the Ardbeg Dark Cove, which I've already reviewed before, but you can notice the little sticker that on there, special committee release. But this is a new expression in their ultimate range. They've sort of added on to their marketing as of late, but you still got the traditional bottle that is, to whiskey drinkers, is almost unmistakable from 100 feet away. So anyway, let's go in. I already said about color. In terms of the age, I've talked about before, if you stroll around the glass a little bit, you get to see some of the legs in there, you get a little bit of an idea for what the age is, but obviously it's not really an exact science, so I'm not going to speculate on the age of it. Let's go in for the nose. Now the first thing that hits you, which is very different from most Ardbeg expressions, is that you get a really sweet gummy bear nose to it. Just really sugary candy fruit notes. But once you spend a little bit more time with it, you realize there's a lot of nuance in the glass. So it's got that signature Ardbeg peatiness to it. It's got some nice, like a smoked fish nose to it. The sea salt and brine are definitely there. You can almost imagine you're there on the shores of Ardbeg during a storm, and you sort of get that sea spray in your face. Another thing that's interesting is I get sort of a grilled pineapple on baked ham note, which I don't get a lot, but that's coming off pretty strong in the nose. So really, a really well developed nose, which has a lot of nuance to it, as I've said. So let's go in for the taste. This is a great one to give some time to, because you'll notice there's a lot of great aspects about this that develop as you sip. And each and every time you may get a little bit more of a character that you didn't taste before. But the first thing that I experienced is that it's a very heavy, chewy mouthfeel, so the leathery texture on the tongue, which is really nice, gives it a nice chewable sense, which is interesting. It's definitely got its own flavor and uniqueness to it, but the one underlying thing that you'll know when you taste this, if you had a blindfold on, is that it's ultimately or fundamentally Ardbeg. It's got the great salty medicinal tobacco, really deep baked fish peatiness to it, black pepper, furniture polish, just really interesting pine needle mint. It's all there. But there's an also side of it that is really like raw vanilla root that sticks sort of in the center of the tongue. It's not as overly sweet. It's not like a bakery vanilla or something that you might put. It's not like the ice cream vanilla flavor. It's a more spicy sense, like vanilla bean, a little bit more. We're still getting the vanilla and dark chocolate notes are really interesting. It's really nice to have that nose that lends itself to like the candied fruit notes, because on the finish you get more of that fruity sense, the gummy bear notes. It's like you just chewed gummy worms and had some Ardbeg 10 at the same time. You probably get something similar to what you're tasting with this. For the prices of what things are these days, the non-age statement trend within the whiskey world is a big thing for a lot of people. But despite that, you have certain companies like Ardbeg, which is one of my favorite scotches ever, is the fact that despite the non-age statement trend, you have to take in the other factors, such as demand is the biggest thing. Cask availability is also another thing. But it mostly comes down to stock, right? Because if they had all the age stock, then they could put the age statement on it. But they're also looking to innovate with putting some younger whiskey in it, mixing a little bit older whiskey, and because you have to give the age of the youngest spirit in the glass, it could be distracting to people if you said you had a 3-year-old Ardbeg with some 25-year-old in it. That's less appealing than if you just had a 25-year-old single malt from Islay. So I think it's interesting what Ardbeg has done in that they have all these different committee releases which end up becoming expressions put out for just the general public until they're either sold out and become extremely rare and selling for thousands of dollars online or the secondary market. But you get these really flavorful, unique, interesting finishes and maturation processes, and they've always got a little tie to local flavor, the story, history, which I think is interesting too, because a lot of times they just mix something together, give it a fancy name, and send it off the marketing. But here, you feel like you get a little bit more of the Ardbeg story. You feel like you become more a part of the brand and distillery itself. You get to know a little bit more nuances about it. It's something that you can talk with other enthusiasts about. And I know that seems weird for just a whiskey that you're just consuming. right? Because you like it. But it really gives more of an experience that I think compensates for the loss of an age statement. So there's some people that have the age statement out there and aren't putting forth as good a whiskey as Ardbeg is with their non-age statements. So it all has to come down to quality. And like I said before, it's non-chill filtered and there's no caramel coloring in it, which in me are big thumbs up in my book. So we'll take one last taste. We'll get out of here. But I love the way that Ardbeg, in the most simplest way you could state it as possible, just engages every single taste bud and flavor profile that you can possibly experience. You get a little bit of the fruitiness, you get the peppery, spiciness to it, black pepper. You also get the dark chocolate, a little bit of caramel in there, toffee notes. And then you also get the other side of it, which is complete contrast in this, furniture, polish, tobacco, spearmint, just leathery texture, all in the same glass. And it's really just a phenomenal whiskey. So, for a score, because I know everybody loves these scores, I will give it a 91 out of 100. And so that's it for episode number 102. Join us next time. We'll have a single pot still Irish whiskey for you that we haven't seen on this side of the Atlantic in a long time. So stay tuned for that. As always, if you're going to drink, drink responsibly, and we'll see you next time.